What's up guys, it's the StrongBoys19 here, and this is the middle of this month right now, the 15th of December, and I'm just going to do my lists after all these 2012 releases that I have reviewed. And I'm going to do this one first of all because this was just an obvious one. It's an easy spot to do. The top 5 worst albums of 2012. And also, make note, this is a video response to CountBlagorath's video on his top 5 biggest letdowns or worst albums this year, whatever you want to call it. So let's just jump right into it. Number 5, we have Red, White, Green by Upon a Burning Body. Now, this is an album which I wouldn't consider complete garbage. It's just an album that is so painfully average to get a hold of. I mean, I just want to check out this band since I've checked out Willem's review on this album, also known as Mel 6 is 6R6. I decided to check out this album and I bought it from HMV. I gave the album a shot and I gave it an average score in my review. And it's an album which I simply tried to get into, but I simply can't. You know, it seems kind of forgettable for me, so I wouldn't really like to listen to this album ever again. So it's not that bad, but I just, you know, didn't like it that much for me to completely enjoy the album. Number 4, we have Wasted Youth by For the Fallen Dreams. Now, this was an album that a lot of people do not respond that well at times. It's just an album that I just try to, you know, get into it like Upon a Burning Body's new album, but it simply failed for me to really like it. This album was just, for me, you know, just a bit bland, to be honest. It's it has its moments of you know, some good parts, but other than that, it's just the same repetitive stuff over and over again. Check out my review if you haven't yet on my you know, on my videos section on my channel. And you know, it's just an album that I can not really just recommend to anyone, to be honest. But if you want to give it a chance, then that's fine. Well, this album for me was just nothing special. It's just packed with just, you know, repetitive stuff and just really uninspiring stuff, for my honest opinion. Number 3, we have Attack Attacks, This Means War. Now, I understand that this album was different than their first 2 albums. I know that they've gone through some lineup changes, and this album was different than the other 2 albums because they've been experimenting with their music. And I tried out this album since I've seen some of the reviews on the album. And the main reason why I checked out this album is because that I've seen Cover Killer Nation's video on his you know, on his best and worst albums of 2012 so far, from the middle of this year. So I checked out the album after that, and I just really did not like it that much at all. It's just, you know, really generic, really bland stuff. And I understand that this album was different than the first 2 albums, but I simply did not check out the band's earlier albums because I've never heard of this band before. So, you know, I checked it out after one of Cover Killer Nation's videos, and this album is just really not that great, in my honest opinion. It's just a bit like For the Fallen Dreams' new album. It's just packed with repetition, and it's just the same stuff over and over again, and I just didn't like it at all that much. So, yeah, at least I gave the album a chance. Number 2, we have Nile at the Gates of Sethu. This album was a complete huge disappointment, and I was really anticipated by this album, and I was really excited for it because I loved their other albums. You've got Annihilation of the Wicked, Ithyphallic, Those Whom the Gods Detest, you know, Black Seeds of Vengeance. Nile is a great technical death metal band. I still love Nile to this day, but this album was a huge travesty. I mean, the things that I really did not like on the album are some pieces of experimentation on the vocals, the production, and the mixing. The mixing was god-awful. Whoever mixed this album should have been fired out of the whole music business industry. The sounds on the instruments are just terrible. The guitars do not sound really thick and raw sounding. It just sounded really bad. And the drums, don't get me started on the drums. They just sound really bad too. But don't get me wrong, I love the music on the album. But as a whole of this album, it's just nothing really interesting for me at all. I got bored of this album after like a couple of more listens on the album. I know I've already reviewed the album and I gave it a 4 out of 5 star rating, but I give this album a second chance and it just sounded worse. And I don't know what the hell I was thinking when I give it a 4 out of 5 rating. Oh my god. So, yeah, Nile's new album is a big mess, but it's just an album which I really did not like at all. It's a big letdown. It's possibly like the biggest disappointment this year. Number 1, the worst album of 2012. And this one was the first 2012 album that I've reviewed. And I've said that this album could be the worst this year, but it's definitely one of the baddest. As I've said in my review, well, it's not one of the worst, but it's definitely one of the baddest. But it is now the worst this year. It is Slave to the Game by Immure. Oh my god. This album was a complete boring, massive chore to get through. It's just the same crap over and over again. Just really forgettable, uninspiring music that's just completely uninspiringly repetitive, and the lack of creation was just really bad. The breakdowns are far too much on this album. They've put in too many breakdowns on this album. It's absolutely god-awful. The vocals are just really bad, and the music varieties on the album are just really bad stuff. I really did not like this album at all. It's just definitely the one that I can just say that deathcore sucks right now. I really don't like deathcore at all right now after I've listened to this album. Oh my gosh. So, I'm done with deathcore. Immure's new album is just absolutely terrible, and it's an album that I would not really want to recommend to a lot of these people out there. Stay away from this album as possible. It's easily just boring, bland, and just terrible. It's just an album that I would just say, this album is just possibly like the most boring, repetitive album ever made. So, yep, Immure's new album, Slave to the Game, is, in my opinion, the worst album of 2012. So that's basically it, guys. That's my list on the top 5 worst albums this year. There will be my video on my honorable mentions video, and also my top 25 this year. and I hope all of you guys are going to be looking forward to that. So, yep, I hope you guys respected my opinions. So, yep, thanks for watching, guys, and keep it metal.